You're listening to the Traffic and Conversion Show. I'm your host, Michelle Fernandez, and joining me today is Nicki Krawczyk. Now, Nicki is a professional copywriter with over 20 years of experience and a digital business owner for more than a decade. Now, she is a multiple seven-figure per year entrepreneur. She's the founder of Nicki K Media and its other brands, Filthy Rich Writer, Fired Up Freelance, and the Circuit Sales System. Now, the Circuit Sales System, wait till you hear more about it. Crazy cool. It's a proprietary system that she created to sell the other brand's flagship courses. And this allowed her to 40x, yes, that's right, you heard me, 40x her business in just under 2 years. Nicki and her team at Nicki K Media are dedicated to empower intentional careers and fulfilled lives for each and every one of their students. You are in for a treat. Like, I normally say this, but this is going to be like crazy cool because today is all about how live launching can sabotage your investing and affluence goals. So stay tuned. All right, hey there, it's Michelle. Welcome back to the show. I am so excited, not only for myself, but for you listening, because today's episode is going to be fire, because Nicki Krawczyk is joining me. Welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show, Nicki.
It's good to be here again. Very excited to chat.
I know we haven't seen each other in a while. We were just catching up before we hopped on, and we met about 5 or 6 years ago, maybe even longer at this point, right? We were staying at the same hotel at a conference, and we were both like crazy enough to book like a super early. It was still dark outside. We left at like 4 a.m. to take it. And we're like, why don't we just share an Uber? And then in the ride, we discovered that we had a mutual client in common. Mm-hmm. So we were like, oh my God, this is so cool. So I think it's been cool for me to see like how your business has grown by these leaps and bounds since then. And even one day in a mastermind, because we were in a mastermind together, I said to you, you are so much smarter than I thought you were, which totally came out wrong because I was like, wait, that's not what I meant. I meant that I already thought that you were super smart, only to discover that you were even smarter than what I
Looks can be deceiving.
Yeah, it was a bad moment for me, but I think you know me well enough.
It was adorable. Yes.
Okay. So obviously I know how amazing you are. Can you tell everyone else a little bit about you, who you serve, what you do, all the good things?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I need to work on a better elevator pitch because I own a multi-brand digital training company. I think at that point, people's eyes kind of glaze over, but stick with me, friends, because it gets good. I have been a copywriter for 20 years, so been in marketing for 20 years. And a decade ago, I had to teach people at the company I was working at. I had to teach people copywriting, and I finished that. And I thought, I wonder if other people would like to know this. Maybe I could like create a course or something and sell it on the internet. And I created a course and I sold it on the internet. Except not, I was, little baby entrepreneur Nicki was like, well, if I put together a really great course and I put it out there, then people will buy it, which of course is not what happens. So for a good couple of years, I tried all of the things. I tried, I tried making it a membership. I tried live launching. I tried challenges. I tried, the only thing I didn't try was free Facebook groups because I just really didn't want free Facebook groups, but I tried all of the things. And then it was actually right around when we met, which I think was like 2018. So yeah, 5 years ago now. I really leaned into what I know, which is messaging, which is customer psychology, which is that I did not want to live launch. So whatever I came up with had to be automated. And I created my own system to sell this copywriting course. And the fast forward from 2018 to end of 2020, and I increased my business's revenue 40 times over in the course of just a little over 2 years, which is amazing. And then of course, then we also created a freelancing course and we used the system to sell that. And then toward the end of last year, some of our mutual friends were like, hey, can you teach me how to sell the way that you do? So we created the third brand, which I call now the circuit sales system, which is this automated selling system that dives deep into messaging and that really gives people what they want when they want it. And it's been going really well. It's super exciting. Yeah. That's my story.
I know. And it's so cool. And yes, she said 40x.
40. And of course we have scaled since then. We are now a multi-seven-figure-per-year business, which is very fun to say. I recommend it to everyone. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been really, really fun.
Can you speak to, because I was like, kind of alongside of you in the mastermind together, watching you grow your business and then even build out the course, right? And then even some of the beta people going through the course and seeing the results they get, right? So it's just been so amazing to see. So can you speak to, because you just said, oh, it's so fun to say I'm a multi-seven-figure a year, not in total. So let's just clarify that. And these are real results, people. Like, this is not somebody sitting here saying, I make this much money and whatever. It's like, I know what goes on. Well, I don't know everything that goes on, but I've seen Nicki, I've been with Nicki, like we've had these conversations. This is real. Okay. So can you speak to, like, even just some of the challenges that you had when you were going in to build and before you 40x'd, and then that kind of led you there? Can you speak to some of that? Because I know a lot of people are going through those struggles right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I also want to be very transparent and say that before I figured out the system and put it to use, I hit $55,000 in consumer credit card debt. And it wasn't like I wasn't like out there going crazy or anything. It was living expenses because yes, I have been a freelance copywriter, but I was setting all of that aside to focus on building my business. And I just couldn't seem to get a foothold. I knew that the copywriting course, which teaches people to become professional copywriters, I knew that it worked because the people who did buy were writing me and saying, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You've changed my life. I now have a career, I'm making so much money as a freelance copywriter, or I got a job as a copywriter. I knew that it worked. And so I just couldn't seem to get a foothold, because like I said, I try all the stuff that they tell you to try. I couldn't get it to work, or it would work, but it would work just a little bit. And so during that time when I had given up all of my freelance copywriting clients, was solely focused on my business, I got into a massive amount of debt. And I actually don't know that I've ever admitted to my parents how much debt I got into. I obviously was living on my own and am living on my own, but there are things that parents probably don't want to know what their kids get up to, especially when it comes to $55,000. But it was very frustrating because I was doing what people told me to do, right? Oh, you have to live launch and you have to do this and you have the launch runway and it has to be like this. And I would do it. And it wasn't working. Or if I did it and it would work a little bit, or I would get some sales, but I would be super burned out. And then once you live launch, then you can't turn around and live launch again immediately the next day, or so then it's like, all right, these are your sales for the next couple of months or whatever. But all of the tactics, the challenges, and people would show up on the first day, but then they would disappear, which we know that's how it works. Right. And as I sat back and went, okay, something's not connecting here. And instead of listening to all, and certainly I think everything can work, it just might not work for you. I know people who are like, live launching, awesome. I hated it. I found it really stressful and also really risky. If you pick the wrong week, I mean, how many friends did we have that picked a week in 2020 where there was massive social unrest? Nobody's paying attention to your launch. And unfortunately, that was their big launch for 6 months, It's really risky. And I sat back and went, all right, well, what do I know? I know that when someone gets on our email list, right, when they first find us, when they first follow us or get on our email list or whatever, they are at their peak moment of excitement. excitement, right? They will never be as excited and interested in what we have to offer as in that moment. And I realized that what most of the things teach us to do is to like nurture them, or, send them, wait, oh, wait, my challenge is coming, or, oh, wait, my launch is coming. And any time that we spend between that moment of peak excitement when they first find us, any time that we spend between giving them an offer, we are just burning out all of that excitement. We are wasting it. And so many people are like, well, you have to nurture them first. It's not true. You can nurture and sell at the same time. We can get into that as well. But I realized that if I needed to take advantage of that peak excitement, because some people will be, if you give them the right messaging, people will buy anything. If you give them the right messaging, if you make the offer compelling, if you make that value clear to them. So I could give it to them at that moment of peak excitement, but then also in a very specific way. A lot of the ways that we've been taught to, like the webinars, just teach, and that doesn't work. But if you give it to them in a very specific way, but then also for those, because there are going to be some people who don't immediately purchase, for those people who don't immediately purchase, to also then continually have an automated system that will reopen sales sequences to them in a very specific way and messaged very specifically and on a very specific timeline, but reopen that all automatically. All I had to do was to get people into it. And I call it the circuit sales system because I think of it as like a closed circuit. Once people get in, they're just going through that circuit. And yes, a lot of people will purchase right away, but they're going through that circuit until they purchase. And there are all kinds of other optimizations and enhancements, we call them. But for me, it was really going, wait, what do I actually know about customer psychology? What have I experienced? Because I know you've done the same thing where you're like, oh, I need a Pinterest ads course, or I need a, whatever is the new thing. Right. And you find someone and you're like, I can't purchase from them. I have to wait for their launch, or I have to do this, or I have to go, no. What I did was it developed a system that gives people what they want when they actually want it, in a way that is very, very compelling for them. And I mean, it's obviously kind of a small part of it, but that's kind of in a nutshell. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love this because I know we got a little bit ahead of ourselves, but that's what we're diving into today, because like live launching is sabotaging so many businesses, right? Yeah. And what you have done is you've like flipped the script, and while everybody else was zigging, you were zagging, right? So you were, because the way I see, this is my interpretation of you. I'm being Nicki right now, sitting on the sidelines, watching people struggle and stress out because you were doing it too, right? And really riding that emotional roller coaster. And because so many times we're like, oh, well, this guru tells us to do this particular thing, so we're going to follow. And then you and I have both seen it. It's you go into certain masterminds or group coaching programs, and so everybody starts building their business with the same business model, right? And what we, and I say myself included, are, okay, well, wait a minute. We don't have a team of 20 people doing all the things. We don't have maybe the resources or a bank account of a certain size to do certain things, to hold us over to launch once or 2 times a year, right? However, we are following and doing everything that they're telling us to do based on their doing it. And I'm not saying what they're doing is wrong, because clearly it works for them, but it doesn't work for everyone, right? And so as I'm sitting here, or in the past few years, watching you and looking at all this, it was like, okay, all of a sudden, Nicki, oh, sale a day, 2 sales a day, 3 sales a day, 4 sales a day, 5, so right? And you just started scaling really fast, right? So, okay, can we just first go back to live launching? So can you just explain what a live launch is briefly, and then why are they so risky?
Yeah, exactly. So a live launch is where you only give people the opportunity to purchase during a specified period of time when you are You are live. You are there with, maybe it's calls every day, or you're doing special promotions, or you're in groups, or people are getting you, they're getting you live. They're there to ask questions. They're there. And it's only for a specific period of time. And that is correct. To offer that urgency and that limitation, that is correct. People don't take action if they don't if they don't have a deadline, which is why one of the ways people do evergreen is wrong, but we'll, talk about that later, maybe if we have time. But and this can be, it can be just, I'm doing this special event this week, call in, or sometimes it's, hop on my live webinar and purchase from me, or it can be challenges, come to my 4-day challenge, but it's all live. So you have to be there and you have to be a part of that. And again, it's only a certain time of year. Like you were saying, these big gurus who do like once or twice a year launches. We are forcing people to make choices on our timelines. And also too, by the way, like, yeah, it works for those big names. Like, yeah, absolutely. It works for, you can, if you're, I won't even name any big names, but if you're one of the big names, you can absolutely just launch once or twice a year, because people are waiting to get in with those big names. But those of us who are not yet those big names, when people follow us and they're like, "Oh, I'm interested in your solution. Awesome. Wow, there is a chance for me. There is hope." And then we say essentially like, "Yeah, there absolutely is hope. I absolutely have the right thing for you. Come back in 3 months when I'm doing a launch." Do you think that they're actually spending those 3 months being like, "Oh, I just can't wait. I'm so excited to get the solution for this huge problem that I have, but I'm going to wait 3 months." Of course not. They're going and they're buying from our competition. Our live launches and that kind of thing are actively encouraging people to go buy from somebody else. And on top of the fact that it's like playing roulette. Right? You're randomly picking a week and hoping that there isn't massive social unrest, or hoping that, I've talked to so many of our students who are like, "Yeah, I had this live launch and it was really, really crucial and my power went out." Or, "I had this live launch and and my entire family got sick." She's like, "My kids were throwing up in the background and I couldn't do anything about it because my entire revenue for 6 months or 3 months or whatever was based on this live launch." And on top of the fact that, I'm sorry, I get really like riled up, but on top of the fact that you're risking all of your revenue on this live launch, and you can't like make any tweaks to it or any changes until the next time you live launch. Like, I've heard so many people say, "Well, you have to live launch because you have to refine your messaging." Well, no, because if you let's say you live launch every 3 months. Let's be generous and say it's every 3 months. Okay, so you think, all right, this didn't go that well. All right, well, I'm going to change my messaging for the next one. 3 months from now, maybe you change it positively, or maybe you don't, and maybe that one tanks. Then you have to wait 3 more months to change it back again and to try to improve it. It's just, it's so frustrating, on top of the fact that so many of us will do live launches and we'll knock it out of the park, right? Because we've all had a great launch, or at least something that feels good. Like, "Oh, I did it. All right, great." And then you're like, "I'm going to do the exact same thing 3 months later." Exact same thing. And it tanks. Right? And you have no idea. There's a fluctuation. Who knows? It's the summer, they're not doing this, or it's the winter and they're not doing this. It's so massively risky for our businesses. And it's so hard to actually scale when you don't know what's going to happen.
And you're right. You had brought this up earlier. Yes, because let's say you're like, "Yes, I'm going to pick this week in October or September, right? It's perfect time for me." And then you don't know one of these huge names, whether it be like a Tony Robbins or an Amy Porterfield or whoever.
Yeah.
Now they're dumping so much money going after the same audience as you are, because I'm assuming you want to grow your business, you're running ads, right? Like, that's just a given in what I'm speaking here. And then now you're fighting for space. So your lead cost is higher, which is costing you more money. What if they buy the other program? So there's so many other factors that come into this. And you're obviously not going to keep changing all your dates because of this. Like, you need to be generating. Also, can we just say that we want to make money every day? I really feel that having this revenue coming in every day, and I used to be a firm believer of the like the cohorts, like everybody starts in this time and everybody ends at this time. And I don't know why I was so anti bringing people in the middle. I felt like that kind of not ruined, but yeah, kind of ruined the culture of the group. And then I was like, wait a minute, this is not so bad because now we have, fresh blood, new people. It kind of gets you excited for something new. So I think that mentality of the start and end doesn't have to be, or you could possibly do multiple cohorts going at different times if you want. Like there's all kinds of different ways that you can be doing this, because I really feel going forward with everything that's going on and all these new changes, the goal is to get money every single day,
Yeah.
not wait.
Honestly,
No matter what.
exactly. I truly don't understand, unless you're one of those big names, I truly don't understand how you can be expected to build a business and scale a business if you, with that massive level of unpredictability with live launching. How can you possibly bring on team members, even if they're contractors? How can you possibly bring on team members if you don't know how much money you're going to make
Right.
in 3 months? Whereas if you're making sales every single day, you can look and see, and yes, is it perfect? No, you're not going to make exactly for us. It will, the 5 sales one day, 3 sales the next day, 6 sales, it will go up and down a little bit, but that, I have to tell you, is a lot better than 30 sales one day and then no sales again for the next 90 days.
Right.
When you have a good idea of what it looks like and you know how to scale it, like once you have the system dialed in, your job, besides taking care of the people who have paid you, helping your students, your job is just to focus on getting traffic in, is to maximize all of your organic. If you're interested in ads, dig into ads or get help with ads, even better. But then you just you turn the dial and then the results go up. And it's yes, on a daily basis, there can be a little up and down, but overall, it's just a really nice line going up and to the right, instead of the, like you said earlier, the roller coaster of live launching. It's exhausting, and thankfully it's not necessary.
Correct. And you had touched a little bit based on this about nurturing and getting people hot when they're ready to buy, because that's something huge, right? I think a lot of us don't think about that. But if we look at our own things, it's like, we're here, we're now, we want this, right? And then you talked about, okay, going to our competitors, which that is like a thing of mine. That's, I'm like, do not lose your lead to right? The whole waitlist idea. So can you dive into that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of us who've been in the digital marketing world have heard this metaphor, like, well, you can't ask someone to buy right away. Asking someone to buy right away is like going up to someone you think is really cute in the bar and then going, hey, you're adorable. Can I buy you a drink? Let's get married. And that's like, and we heard that and we're like, oh my gosh, yes, that's so true. The metaphor makes perfect sense, except that it doesn't make perfect sense. Because remember, these are people who wanted to interact with us. These are people who opted into our email list or started following us on social. In fact, if this is metaphor to make it make a little bit of sense, it would be us sitting at the bar and them coming up to us because they are showing interest. Also, by the way, getting people to make a purchase is not proposing marriage. It's not that much of a commitment. When people are interested, we should give them what they're looking for, but we should also make it very compelling. And there's certainly things that you need to do, but you can sell to them and you can nurture them at the same time. It doesn't have to be, well, I have my nurture sequence. So I have to tell them who I am and I have to tell them why I care about the business and I have to do this and I have to do this. And 7 days later, then I'll give them the opportunity to purchase. Like I was saying before, all you're doing is burning that excitement for 7 days. I mean, how many times I was going to say, I know you have, but I think probably every human being has found something on Instagram or whatever on the internet and been like, ooh, I want to buy that. You like open the tab and you're like, I'm going to come back to that later. And you forget about it and you come back to it later. And even if it's just a day or two later, even that first day, you're like, oh, I'm definitely going to get that. And then a couple of days later, you're like, no. And then you forget. And then you're like, you know what? I don't, I'm going to close the tab. That's exactly what happens when we nurture someone, when we don't give them that compelling message and that reason to purchase immediately at the same time that we nurture them.
I love that. There's so much stuff that came up for me, all these examples, but one of which is like, one example is, okay, so I had a client who was like, okay, They had a master class that they were doing live every other week. And so they had lead magnets that were not leading into. So number one, they didn't have it going to there, but it was leading them into all these different directions, right? It was like, oh, my podcast, my YouTube, my this, my that, my other. And I'm like, you're almost confusing them more than you thinking you're giving them value, because really people just want their problem solved, right? So you're sending them this training or this opportunity to solve their problem. And I think that's what a lot of people want, because people pay for speed and then they want their problem solved now. So if you, like you're saying, if your messaging is right and your targeting is on point and you're getting yourself in front of the right person, I can almost guarantee you, I know for me, that I'm almost like, okay, just tell me how much it costs and I will figure out a way to pay it. Because I
Yes,
know this is going to
absolutely.
solve my problem. Right.
Mhm.
And I think that that's where we get caught up in that, oh, I don't want to ask somebody to, buy from me or spend the money, because those are your own money issues. Right.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, they want to. People will buy things. We will spend so much money on stuff that we want. If we genuinely want it, if we value it, we will spend so, like an iPhone. An iPhone is a piece of glass.
right.
And it costs like what, 12, it's been a while since I bought my iPhone. I need to upgrade, but
That's
like
for
what,
sure.
$1,200 for a piece of glass that's like designed to break unless you spend an extra $200 on a case and a thing. Like
Right.
college. There is no guarantee that you're going to get anything out of college. And people pay multiple, I was going to say multiple dozens of thousands. People can pay like $100,000 when there's even no guarantee, but the value, people understand they want it. And if
Right.
you can make people understand that value, make them want it and understand what they're going to get out of it, why it's going to be so transformational for them. And then also make your offer so compelling that they're like, well, I have to get this. They will buy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love this. So speaking of when you're positioning yourself and the webinar, let's say, or your
Mhm.
training, your masterclass, your workshop, whatever it is that you want to call it that you're selling, like teach, teach, teach. I even saw an ad from somebody that I personally really like, and it was like, my free stuff is like amazing, and it just gives you all this information. Like, I do not hold back. Right. But
Yeah.
then I'm kind of like, a long time ago when I first got in this business, I consumed this one, it's a woman, all her stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm totally buying her thing. And when I got in, it was like a repeat of all the free stuff. Yes, it was curated in a certain order, but I was kind of like, oh, I kind of know this already. So it was a little awkward for me. Also, too, I was super new to all this. So can you speak to the free and giving all this stuff, or teaching,
Mhm.
teaching? Why it's not the best way to make sales?
Well, we have absolutely almost universally been taught teach your stuff, teach your best stuff, give your best stuff, teach them. And part of it is they say, well, then you give them a small win, and then we get a small win, they're going to buy to get the bigger win. Which, by the way, first of all, that doesn't happen. I mean, yes, sometimes it happens, but most people, they get the small win and they're like, all right, I got this. I can figure out the rest of it on my own.
Yes. Yes.
Or they get the small win and they're like, well, I have to focus on maximizing the small win before I can even think about buying anything else. So there's that. But also the thing about teaching, learning is exhausting. Now, learning is very important. Do not get me wrong. Learning is wonderful, valuable, but learning, it is a mental drain. I will always say, like, remember in school, when you went to school, were you like so excited, dying to learn more, dying for them no, you were like, I want to get out of school. Even in college, when we choose the courses, were we all showing up and we're like, yes, college, I can't wait to, no, of course not. We were all, sleeping in and wasting our valuable loan money. And even the courses that we as business owners that we purchase because we're like, yes, I want to learn this. I don't know about you, Michelle, but I have to schedule time on my calendar to be like,
Yes.
log in, go through this course, because learning is exhausting. It is tiring. So when we get people on these calls, we get people in these live events, we're like, I'm going to teach you something. When we teach them, we're not capitalizing on that excitement. We're not making them more excited. we're making them, we're burning brain energy because learning is exhausting. Instead of teaching, we need to be giving them breakthroughs. We need to be changing their paradigms. We need to be taking the things that they have always thought were true and that have kept them from being successful and showing them why those don't actually work and what does actually work instead. So from the outside, sometimes it can seem a little bit like teaching, but because you are giving them information, but the outcome is totally different. When you teach, people on your calls like, that was so great. That was great. And I've got my notes and I'm going to review my notes later. And then they forget about it because they have all the notes and then I want to go back through the notes. But when you shift their paradigms, when you give them breakthroughs, it's exciting for them. They feel hope. They feel possibility. They want to learn more. And then we leave the learning and the teaching for after they've purchased, where it belongs.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Because I went to I sign up for a lot of things just to see how everybody's selling, what they're doing, their, strategy. And I remember this one girl was like, 19 minutes, I'm going to show you how to blah, blah, blah. And then I remember watching, and well, first of all, she's very magnetic, dynamic, and like the whole time she was showing basically testimonials and case studies, right? And at the end, I was like, I want to buy this because it shifted my belief of what I thought was the way you're supposed to do it. And it showed me what's possible, that I can be this. This is where this person started. This is where this person ended. So I love that you figured this out. And you're saying like, no teaching, because it does relieve that from you. And it takes away from people thinking, oh, great, she just gave me 3 actionable steps that now I can go do. And then when I get those done, if and when I block those out on my calendar anytime soon, then I can come back and buy this thing again. And I think that's where a lot of people do it. And honestly, some people might even get an email in their inbox and be like, hey, what was this that I signed up for? I don't even remember. Let me just unsubscribe, which is, I think, what happens most of the time, even going back to the nurture part, right? Who's this girl? That happens to me every day. I'm like, who's this girl? Why is she inviting me to whatever? I don't remember,
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
Okay, so when we're talking about this sales system, right? So the video is on demand, right?
Yes.
So it's not live. So how do you overcome creating that connection? Like a lot of people like to do it live because they get to call out somebody's name or answer a question. Like, how do you I don't know, make that connection?
Yeah. I think a lot of people think, oh my gosh, my people need to see me live. My people love me live. And I will say that with so much love and no offense to anybody who thinks that. No, your people don't need to see you live. You can be just as animated and have just as much energy and presence if you're recording something. Maybe if you need to have someone in the room, then great, then maybe you can talk to them in the room that helps you, but you can be just as animated. But it's not about how woohoo you are. It's all about what you're actually saying, what you are conveying to these people. If you are live, but your messaging is mediocre or, just kind of meh, people aren't going to buy. They're not going to care. But if your video is on demand and the messaging is so compelling and you're making these people see things in a way that they had never seen them before, never thought of them before, you can make sales like crazy because it's not again, I don't want to break anybody's heart, but the magic is not in us being live. The magic is in us creating messaging that connects with our audience, tells them what they need to hear, takes them on a journey. Our CSS students will know that there's a lot of emotion that we build into this, and being a 20-year copywriting veteran, we dig a lot into messaging, and we talk to people in ways that they have not talked to them before and connect with them in ways that we haven't connected with them before. And that's what works. It's not a matter of being, and yes, can you answer, but you can also answer questions on a recorded thing too. I always get asked this question. Here's what the answer is. It's the magic is not in being live. We are all wonderful, magical entrepreneurs, but the magic of sales is not being live. The magic of sales is conveying a message that is compelling and makes people want what you have. I mean, when we think about it, there are no other industries except for the digital industry that has this this live launching method, you know, even when people will sometimes, well, like iPhone, they launch. Yeah. But then they don't go, all right, you've only got 5 days and then see you in 3 months. Like we're the only industry that does that. And that should make us think, right? It should, we're not, the only way you can buy, and I have just a pair of shoes is if you come in and I demonstrate these pair of shoes for you and I answer all these questions. No, that's not how it works, right?
Exactly.
We don't have to be live.
Okay. So I want to say this too, because in some of our, group settings or talkings, like, and somebody says, I do a daily live webinar, and you're like, that is just horrible. Like, I cannot even think of that. So now my question is, what are you doing now with all this time that you're not having to show up for a live thing? Or like, honestly, because sometimes I think that I am so go, go, go that when I'm like, oh, I actually have my team doing something, or this is automated now, or I'm almost like, what do I do with myself? Are you ever like that? I feel like you're on to creating the next brand. So maybe you're not there.
Like, I probably don't take advantage of all the downtime that I could. But that's part of the thing, is that it's so, what a time suck to have to be constantly doing something like that. Whereas when it's running in the background, you can be working with your current students, you can be taking vacation. None of us got into business to give ourselves 9 to 5, 9 to 6, 9 to 7, 9 to 8 jobs, right? None of us got into business to be stuck at our desks all day long. We got into business to have more freedom and to enjoy that freedom and to have an impact on the world. But so many of us get into it and we find ourselves stuck at our desks. So freedom, I took a trip last week. But then also me too, I'm always like, oh, what about this idea? And we could work on this next thing. But I can do that because I have
and that's what I was going to say. Not only the room, but the room in your mind, the mental capacity where you're like, you have this peace of mind that you're having sales coming in. You're not worried about, oh my gosh, who else is launching this? Do I have all these things in a row? And who's going to show up? And everything, everything is like, balancing on this one launch. So then now you're more creative. Now these thoughts, who cares if you're sitting by the pool or on a beach and you're like, oh my God, I have the next multi-million-dollar idea, right? I mean, that I would do all day long. Excuse me, guys, I'm going to, go build my empire for an hour or two and come back because these thoughts are fresh. Oh my God, so good. Okay, so when we're doing this, what are some things, because I'm all about the numbers and the data tracking. So what are some things or metrics that we should be monitoring in order to increase our sales?
Absolutely. I mean, there are metrics that we should all be monitoring, no matter how you're doing things, right? You need to know what your, granted, email open rates can be a little bit fuzzier of a number than it used to be. You and I have talked about this, but still something to look at and see if the trends are changing. You want to monitor your click-through rates. If you are working on a circuit, then you're looking at your lead cost. You're looking at your conversion rates. You're looking at your conversion rates in your first sales segment, and then you have additional automated sales segments. That's one of the things that we never give up on people, right? There are going to be some people who don't immediately purchase. They're just going to be. Maybe it's genuinely not the right time. Maybe they genuinely don't have the money. But within the circuit, there are automated additional options that still feel like, woo, live, woohoo, excitement, feels live for them. Somebody asked me the other day, like, since you launched the new course, where are people going through? Where's that first batch? And I went, I don't know. Let me think about that. Well, I know they've been through the second sales sequence, but we never give up on them. There are always going to be more opportunities. So you want to check your conversion rate. If you're working on check your conversion rates on your first sales sequence, certainly, and then on your other sales sequences as well, and look for opportunities to increase, because that's part of the fun. Is once you have sales coming in every day, then you can go in and you can tweak things and you can test, and you don't have to, like we were saying with live launching, if you test something, you're not going to know how it turns out until the next time you live launch, and it might do gangbusters and it might fail. Whereas when you're making sales every day and you constantly have people going through, you can go in and go, oh, all right, you know what? I'm going to test. Let's try a different headline. Let's do an A/B test. Let's try a different headline on this opt-in page. Oh, okay. That one's the winner. That one we're moving forward with. Now that we have that, let's try a different picture. And then there's so much less guessing when it comes to trying to improve your numbers. And even with ads as well. It's all right. Well, I mean, testing is, if anybody knows, testing is the key with ads. You couldn't possibly be successful with ads without testing. But if they're all just going to one event and that one event is 2 weeks away, there's only so much testing you can do in that. Whereas when you have a continually running circuit, you can be constantly testing new messages and constantly testing new combinations and seeing what it's so funny because like incremental little changes can have a massive improvement on your outcome and on your revenue. Mm-hmm. So there's all kinds of metrics, and we, dig into them with our students. But the great thing is that you can monitor them, make small changes, and they can have a massive impact because it's happening every single day, not once a month or once every 6 months or once a year, which give me heart palpitations.
I know. And also too, it's like you're getting the data constantly. So if we're only doing it once or twice a year, I know you hit on this already, but then it's like we only have that one data during that 1 week, or you know what I'm saying? Where this, it's just like the more data you have, the better, right? Mm-hmm. Because then now you have lots of information to then play with, figure out, and I love this. I love this. Did we hit everything? Because I thought you said, oh, maybe we'll dive into that, but now I don't remember.
Oh my gosh. I know, probably. There's so much. I could dig into this.
Yes. Yes. And I really, is there anything that you're like, okay, if there's one thing that they need to know, or I mean, I think all of this that they need to know, but is there anything?
I think, you know what, I do. There is one thing. I talk to a lot of students who are like, well, maybe this hasn't worked for me, but maybe if I just like keep going harder on something, a different like launching or challenges or whatever, maybe I just keep doing it more. Because that's what everybody says. Well, right. First of all, you and I were just talking about before the call, it's really easy to look successful online without actually having anything to back it up. And we know behind the scenes on some people, it's really easy to look successful. But what it comes down to is that you have to actually have so anyway, it's really easy to look successful. But if you're just listening to people and doing what they've told you to do, and if you just dig in further, that's the sunk cost fallacy, right? Is that I've already put in so much effort, I just have to keep putting in more effort. If something hasn't been working, you putting in more effort or more time is not going to make it work. And the thing is that we as business owners don't have the luxury of like putting more effort into stuff that doesn't work, or we don't have the luxury of being like, oh, I did a course before and that didn't really work, and so therefore I'm never going to buy another course. I'm not going to try anything new. Like I guess it's kind of silly to call it a luxury, but it almost is. Like, I'm just going to give up. We can't give up. If we give up, our businesses don't work, and then we have to go get a crummy job, and then we're stuck at a desk. But we have to keep trying. Even if I've talked to so many students who are like, I almost didn't buy or I almost didn't join because, I took a course on this before and it didn't work. I took a course on that, and I got that. I've taken crummy courses too. I know that you have as well. But because we all have, I know that you have, because I know we all have. Mm-hmm. But we can't give up. We can't give up until it works. Yeah.
That's a fact. Even if I'm going to add this last question in, is that let's say you're new or you have a new offer, you haven't really sold it before. Would you suggest doing this system on a new product that hasn't converted?
I will be totally honest with you. My preference is that people have tried to sell it and at least sold it to a handful of people. And the reason is, and this was part of the thing that kept me going way back when, was if I can sell it to one person, I can sell it to 5 people. If I can sell it to 5, I can sell it to 10. If I can sell it to 10, I can sell it to 50. If I can sell it to 50, I can sell it to 200, and so on. So it does really help to have that proof of concept that it is something that people actually want. However, I will say that we have students in our group that because we have a student-only Facebook group as well as coaching calls, and we have students in the group that say, oh, wow, now that I've learned all of this about messaging and learned the things that I've learned about my target audience, I actually want to go back to my course and change my course a little bit before I start selling it with my circuit. So they're ideally, I would say people have sold it to at least a couple of people. But at the same time, if people want to get started, there is also still a benefit of using what's in the circuit to help you build your course before you're even ready to turn on the circuit and get that messaging right there. Yeah.
I love that. Yes. And then with your email, and also it helps you really get clear on not only your offer, but how you're selling it, right? You're getting clear on your customer, you're getting clear on what the benefits are. So you feel more confident when you're talking about it, when you're, you know what I mean, as you're on these things. Because I think a lot of times that's where it comes from. Sometimes it's not your offer. Sometimes that's not that great. It's your conviction for the offer, because your lack of confidence, like, will this sell? Is this what they want? It's like you take everybody through that, where it's like there's no question. Like, if you're following this, like your people will be pulling out their credit cards before, you know what I mean, they even you even present what the offer is, which is where we all want to be. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's go into Michelle's hot minute. Okay. So I'm going to ask you a few rapid fire questions. Ready? Okay.
Yes.
What is your guilty pleasure?
My guilty pleasure. I probably definitely wine. Is it even, can I even say guilty? Cause I just, definitely
Okay,
wine.
so red, white, or rosé?
I'll take any of them. On a hot summer day, it's definitely going to be white, but I'll also drink red. Like, if you're like, here's a bottle of wine, I'm not even going to ask you what it is. I'm just going to grab it out of your hands and drink it from the bottle.
The best or the most recommended marketing book that you would tell people?
Absolutely. Influence by Robert Cialdini. That is one that everyone needs to read. Absolutely. Mark it up. Have a couple of, I think I actually do literally have a couple of copies. Yeah.
What is your favorite way to de-stress?
Can I just say wine again? No.
You can.
Wait a minute. I think I might have a problem. No, going out for dinner. I love going out for dinner with friends and like trying new food, and yes, probably also a little bit of wine. Again, I might have to cut back on this now that we've had this probing conversation.
You don't need to. Okay. What do you wish someone taught you a long time ago?
What do I wish someone taught me a long time ago? I wish someone had taught me that the 2 keys to success. Because it's always like, what does it take to be successful? Everybody thinks it's like it's magic, right? But with almost everything in the world, there are 2 keys to success, and those are consistency, showing up, doing it every day, and persistence. Sticking with it, making some tweaks here and there, maybe reevaluating what you're doing. But I was in business for 6 years before I finally figured out my system. But I could very easily have given up or have not shown up every day. And it's consistency and persistence. If you stick with it and you keep showing up, eventually you will get where you want to be, where eventually you'll hit those goals.
Did you ever not want to show up?
Oh my God. Yeah. All the time. All the time.
Did you not show up? Like, you didn't want to, so you didn't?
There were definitely times in those first 6 years that I think of it now as treating my business more like a hobby. And I think it was toward the end of 2018 when I figured out my system, around that time that you and I met, that I went, okay, I need to get serious about this. I need to be the CEO of my business. I need to get serious about understanding my numbers and how I get people in. And it's when I took my business seriously, that's when I took the way that I sold seriously and figured out the system, that's when things really started to turn around. But do it. Yeah, absolutely. There are totally days when I fantasize about like going and working in a bread shop because we're business owners. We all have, well, it just seems so easy, right? Like, do you want it sliced or not? Okay, well then there's your bread. There's a bread shop around the corner from the last place I used to work, but no, I mean, it's not all sunshine and roses every single day. But aside from my random bread shop fantasies every once in a while, I love it. I love this. There's nothing else that I would want to do. It's so much fun to be in business and to impact people. And, you know, our copywriting course, we just hit, we just reached 10,000 students in that program, and almost all of them sold through what I now call the circuit sales system. So it's just so cool to be able to impact this many people like over the internet. How cool are our lives? It's amazing.
I tell you, every time we're totally getting off my rapid fire 1 minute, but whatever. I think this is good. Every time my husband leaves in the morning, like well, I shouldn't say every time, but sometimes I walk him to the door and he's like, you have like the best life. Like as he's walking out, going to work, and I'm like, yeah, I work, but it's, you know, it's at home. You're more, you know what I mean? It's just a different vibe than actually going and reporting to someone and dealing with whatever comes with it. So you're absolutely right. Okay, what is your next travel destination?
What is my next travel destination? That is a great question. I would really like to do the Amalfi Coast.
Ooh.
I've been to Tuscany. I've been to a couple other smaller areas in Italy, but I have not been to the Amalfi Coast, and I really have my eye on it. I've been following a lot of Instagram accounts, so I'm hoping to go next April. I have a couple of little trips before then, certainly, but next big trip where I want to be away for like a good couple of weeks, I think should be the Amalfi Coast next year.
Oh, I love it. Okay, what tells you most about a person?
How they react to either stressful situations or things that they don't want to do. Because there are a lot of people who will kind of hide, or a lot of people who will like take their stress out on the world, but I like the kind of people who, I think it's probably a lot of the people that we run with, the kind of people who are like, oh, that looks scary. No, I don't want to do it. Okay, now I'm going to do it. You know, I think those are my favorite kind of people it's not that we're not scared. It's not that we're not challenged. It's not that we're like, yeah, I'm totally going to dive in and do every difficult thing. I love it. But who go, all right, I don't want to do it, or I'm scared to do it, but okay, I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah, I usually do that. Well, my hands start sweating and then I complain a little bit, and then probably a lot of it. But it's like I'm complaining like to vent, to get it out, and then I still do it. So, and then I do it to my daughter, and she's like, Mom, you're always complaining, and then you end up doing it anyway. So why don't you just skip the complaining?
Like, no, this is part of my process. Process. Yes.
Haven't you figured that out by now? Yeah. You're like my sounding board, so just deal with it.
This is your role.
Exactly. I'll even give you some money for your position. As the official soundboarder. Oh, I love that. This is so much fun, Nicki. I so appreciate you for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's so good. Can you tell people where to find you?
Yes, absolutely. You can find us at the Circuit Sales System, at circuitsalessystem.com. Although I think we did buy and redirect, but circuitsalessystem.com. And if you want to opt in and check out the video, get yourself into, it's very meta, but get yourself into the circuit for the Circuit Sales System. You can find the links on that website, or you can just go to circuitsalessystem.com/free, and you'll get the opt-in page right there, and you're off to the races.
Oh my gosh. So good. So good. Okay. Well, there you have it. How live launching can sabotage your investing and affluence goals, right? With Nicki Krawczyk. Oh my gosh. Definitely go check her out. I'll find where you can find her and all the good things in the show notes. Thank you again, Nicki. This was so good. All right. I hope you enjoyed the show. Until next time, let's grow your business together.